Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Elliot and Greg. We've come to the end of a very long night of boxing. We're all very tired, but we have all enjoyed Leigh Wood winning his world title back against Mauricio Lara via unanimous points decision win. Gents, interesting main event. I know Leigh Wood was the underdog. He's won the fight. He's won it quite comfortably in the end. Dropped Lara in the second round. And yeah, interested to get your thoughts on it, really. Found it a bit of a strange watch myself because I just expected a bit more from Lara, but he never really got going. And the last three rounds, I think, would just kind of coasted it, in my opinion. Greg, I'll go to you first. Give me your thoughts on that fight, please.
I think you've got it right, Elliot. I think it was, well, first of all, just thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it was a really strange fight. I expected more from Lara, if I'm being honest, but I think he was just steady at the weight. I think he tried too hard to make the weight, and I think that Wood just he knew how to neutralise him in the first fight, and yeah, he just done it the second fight as well. Except this time he followed the game plan instead of stepping in and going for it. So yeah, it was a convincing victory, and I think we'll get a rubber match if I'm being honest.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. And I do have to ask this. I don't want to take anything away from Leigh Wood. I love the fact Leigh Wood's won. I really like Leigh Wood's. I think it's his kind of career is a fantastic story. But what do you think was up with Lara? Because that did not look like the Mauricio Lara from 3 months ago to me. Or am I being a bit unfair?
No, I think you're right. I think there was maybe something to do with the weight. Um, it could be physically making the weight, but it could also be psychological, Elliot, which means if the British Boxing Board of Control stopped him from making the weight, it just maybe thought, well, what's the point? A loss is a loss. I can come back, I can knock guys out, but that's not really the way boxing works these days, is it? It's more, it's on reputation, how many wins you get on your back. So I think it was a mixture of both. I think, if I'm being honest, Elliot, I think he struggled to make a weight, but I think that him being stopped to be allowed to make the weight, I think that was like a double dunter, and I think that kind of took the wind out of his sails, and I think he just felt he had nothing to fight for tonight.
Yeah, he's kind of paid the ultimate price, I feel like, for not making weight. And although when he came in so overweight yesterday, a lot of people thought, is the fight going to go ahead? This is such an advantage. He's coming 4 pounds heavier. Leigh Wood didn't look great at the weigh-in, but in the end, it's not done him any favors, whether he's not lived a life properly or not cut weight properly or whatever. But here is the result. Elliot, what are your thoughts on what we've just seen?
I loved it, mate. I actually loved it. To be honest, I think we were talking beforehand about a few of us, saying, like Greg had said there, like the blueprint in a way for how Leigh Wood could win this fight was already there in the first fight. He just got caught essentially, and that was that. But like I say, he switched on here, and like you can say what you want. I actually, to be honest with you, to be perfectly honest, I actually changed my pick yesterday from Leigh Wood points to actually Lara stoppage. I thought that he'd come in obviously with the extra weight and actually just blitz Leigh Wood out of there. To be perfectly honest, so I'm just delighted. I'm delighted that it happened, and I think the reasons why. I mean, I don't know whether it's because he's become a world champion, Lara, and he just I don't know between these two fights. Obviously, it wasn't too long either. Leigh was probably sitting at home. Well, once the concussions worn off, obviously thinking, I want to essentially get that belt back. Whereas Lara, becoming world champion, could have been sitting there doing whatever his world champions tend to do. So I don't know whether that has an effect either, and whatever. But like you say, it wasn't the Lara we expected, but equally, what performance from Leigh Wood you beat? What's in front of you? Psychologically, it's been difficult for Leigh Wood yesterday as well. No, that's not just Lara. So I think, to be honest with you, he deserves massive, massive credit for coming through that tonight, and I'm actually thrilled for him.
Fantastic stuff. Just going to move on quickly to what happens next. I feel like Leigh Wood's kind of at the grander stages of his career, you could say. He turns 35 in a couple of months. He's I want to see your guys' thoughts on if he is going to continue at featherweight. Might be not a bad idea to see him move up to 130 pounds. I think he did look a bit gaunt yesterday. He looked gaunt back in February. But there's big fights at featherweight as well, aren't there? Elliot, do you think he's going to stay at featherweight or move up in his next fight?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think, to be honest with you, I he did look quite healthy yesterday at the weigh, and frankly, I wouldn't be adverse to him moving up. But equally, I also quite like to see him shut up Josh Warrington. So if that fight can be made, I would like to see that. But other than that, I think, to be honest with you, I know what Greg's saying. Maybe you sit there and go, maybe you want a trilogy with Lara, but if I'm Lee Wood, I wouldn't take it. Frankly, I'd say you've avenged that loss and you move on. I wouldn't go back in and fight Lara again. I'll potentially move up, and yeah, I mean, there's obviously names that they got. Cordina, obviously, you can fight up there as a sort of British interest, but other champions maybe slot in big fights there as well. So I'd actually would move up unless you fancy shutting up Josh Warrington.
Yeah, I think that Warrington fight, I think that's still a big fight. I know Leigh Wood really wants to fight at the City ground, fight at Nottingham Forest's ground, and maybe the Josh Warrington is that fight to make that venue come into place. Greg, what are your thoughts on what Leigh Wood does next?
I think you like Greg's spot on. I think fuck Lara. Don't fight him again. Don't need to. Jamie, fuck him. You don't need him. You beat him. He's just a pest. He's just a hard hitting guy that you don't really need in your life. If you beat him, you don't need to go there again. I think if I'm, it's a tough one because I think if you're looking at it, I think the fight that will be made next is either Lara rematch, which I'm not 100% sure that happens, but it could. But I think Warrington is much more likely. I think you need to think of a promoter's head and you need to think what sells and what's going to get the interest in things and the fans, etc. So I think we see Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington next, if I'm being honest with you. I really do think that's the fight next.
Yeah, after listening to both of you guys, I think you're right. I think that the super featherweight division is just, to fight any of those world champions is going to be very difficult for Leigh Wood. And that Josh Warrington fight's a big fight. Josh Warrington, look, he's been in British boxing a long time now. He's a big, I'm not saying he's, on the Anthony Joshua level of fame, but he's a big name in British boxing. So yeah, and I'm sure Leigh Wood will fancy himself in that fight. Final question, chaps. If we are right and that fight does happen next, who do you side with? Greg, I'll go to you first.
Leigh Wood points. I think it's a hard fight. I think Warrington has got something left to offer. I think he's maybe got the experience of fighting the better fighters than Leigh Wood. But I just think that Leigh Wood might have a style. He jabs, he knows how to step on the back foot. He's a really good fighter to watch, Elliot. He's not the type of jab and run away. He jabs and knows how just to step out of distance. And I think that's a style that could upset Josh Warrington. So I think I favour Leigh Wood points in that fight.
Good stuff. Elliot, are you agreeing with Greg? Would you go for Leigh Wood as well in that fight?
Yeah, it probably won't obviously, balance with the likes of the other videos would if there's a big argument coming in here. But I do actually fully agree with him. Yeah, I think Warrington's only been stopped once, hasn't he, by Lara? So I think he's not exactly glassy in that sense on the chin. And but I still think he's not going to hurt Leigh Wood either. So frankly, I think if we would points actually. Yeah, I totally agree with Greg.
Fantastic. We'll see what happens, and it's late, so we're going to leave things there. Gents, thanks very much for joining me. Been a bit of a marathon night of boxing, 3 world title fights, ups and downs, but yeah, it's been good to experience the night with the two of you and the rest of the group as well. Thank you everyone for watching this video and all the rest of our content. We've been at all 3 shows tonight, which we're very proud of, so please do check out all of our content, all of our interviews that are going to be posted over the next 24 hours as well. Greg, Elliot, thank you very much for joining me. I will speak to you all again soon, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you again, guys, for watching.